Straight to it.
Okay, let's get straight to it. Okay, well, everyone, welcome to Rise and Sell. This is a channel where Gurminder and I would just talk about everything and anything under the sun around communication and sales. My name is Tom Sang, and I am a sales professional. Been in the industry for a little bit now. Yeah, that's how I'll start.
Likewise.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Gurminder, I'll
Thomas.
pass it over
My
to
name's
you.
Gurminder. I am also a sales professional, as one would say. I like to think of myself as a sales professional, so here
Me
we
too.
are. And to Thomas's point, really just want to use this time with you guys to speak about everything in regards to human life, communication, selling, work, habits, and really anything when it comes to self-fulfillment improvement.
What I'd like to talk about, if you're cool with Gurminder, is we talk about sales a lot and like how folks talk to each other. Everyone sells the same. Everyone's teaching the same thing, but there is that one product that always remains the same, right? And that's the salesperson. Like we talk about that. So walk me through, you're in the field. What are you thinking about these days? Like compared to what you were thinking about 3 months ago. You, my friend,
3 months ago was
are frozen.
we
There we go. You're back. Hey, welcome back.
okay.
From Zoom.
Beauty. Step one. That's one thing we need to work on right there. Get better internet connection on my end.
Okay,
There
I
it
will
is.
note that down. We gotta get better internet connection. No budget. What are you finding this budget for?
Yeah.
Come on now.
You're
But
right.
yes.
You're right. Nothing. Nothing. To answer your question though, 3 months ago I was thinking about how am I going to get a job? What steps do I need to take to get a job? And now low network bandwidth is happening again.
I can hear you perfectly fine. Yeah, we're good.
This is brutal. Okay.
You know what though? I know what we'll do. We'll switch platforms next time. Change to something
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
We ain't paying for shit, but we'll switch to something else that's free 99.
To answer your question,
Yeah.
right now what I'm thinking about every single day is sales. How can I get better at sales? What can I do every day on a day-to-day basis to improve my craft? Because I like to think of my profession as a craft as well. Just like an athlete, you got to go in, put your reps in every single day. You got to speak to a certain amount of people every single day. You got to shoot a certain amount of free throws every single day. And that's the type of approach I like to take to sales in my craft as well. Is I need to put in repetitions of sending emails. I need to put repetitions of banging out cold calls, prospect meetings, client calls, and really just continuously do the exact same thing every day without actually seeing any type of result, but knowing that, hey, this result, it's going to compound in 365 days, and at the end of the year, I'll be 365% better.
Okay. Whatever pyramid scheme you're selling, I might buy it. What is it? What's a passive income? Okay, so here's my question, right? Like when you think about talking to people now, right? You think about, hey, being like that athlete. You think about perfecting your craft. You think about talking to people now versus your ideology of talking to somebody before. Like what has changed?
So talking to people now, I really want to understand like their why behind everything. For example, why are you looking to buy this? When are you looking to buy it? What caused you to start looking at the solution? Whereas before it was just like, okay, cool, we're having a conversation now. But I wasn't asking very deep level questions to actually get a better understanding of who the person is, what they're looking for, why they're looking for it, why they act a certain way. But right now, what I'm really trying to do is get a better understanding of what questions I can ask someone to really get a better understanding of who they are as a person and why they do things the way they do it.
Okay. That's really good, by the way. Like just under the 5 layers of why we talked a little bit about this. Like this is what psychologists use and therapists use as well. Now, do you find yourself practicing your sales techniques on your friends and personal conversations? Do they ever catch you? Is the second piece as well.
Without a doubt in my mind, everyone that I'm talking to, it's always a matter of like they're talking about, oh yeah, like I want to go eat cactus or I want to go eat pizza. Why pizza today? What'd you eat before pizza? Tell me more about that. Do you like water? How many cups of water do you drink every single day? And like they're like, dude, what are you doing? But I'm like, okay, like I said, like I need to get my reps in one way or another. For example, if I talk to 10
100%.
people on the phone,
Yeah.
I gotta get my reps in somehow, man. Like I gotta
Totally.
speak to someone. I gotta
Gotta
try this
do
on someone, see if it
It's gotta
works.
be a safe space. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we talked about it, like rarely anyone picks up the phone. Like
Exactly.
I made a few dials a day. Nothing, right? I left some voicemails, sent some emails, but you and I both know it's a hard game. Like outbound sales, like
Yeah.
being an account executive in general is pretty tough. So you've been talking about, have seen different memes now. They all sort of make sense. Like I feel like all salespeople can relate to one part or another, like beginning of the month, end of month, different pieces that they're looking at, like funnels and stuff like that. So now feeling like that you're more ingrained into the industry, do you have any thoughts on that? Like what's kind of like a overkill, like over exaggerated, and what are some of the cool things that now you get to face?
I think one thing that like I genuinely face is it's like a 24/7 game. Like there's absolutely zero way for you to shut off because at the end of the day, you go have another client meeting the next day, and the only way to prepare for that client meeting the next day is if you do your motions, you go through the reps the day before, just like an
Right,
athlete. An athlete's going to
right.
go to the gym the day before, get their shots in, do a certain amount of stretches, eat a different type of food before their game. And I feel like that's what you have to do. Like I treat a meeting like it's a game, like it's game
Mm,
day, and that's what I tell
yeah,
people as well. Like
it's game
it's
day.
game day. Like for
Yeah,
example, like I have friends and people in my life that are still in school, and just
yeah,
how they treat an exam.
yeah.
That's the type of approach that I like to take to a client meeting as well. Just because I wouldn't go into it, or I have went into exams blind because, to be honest, I didn't care too much for it.
Right.
But like for someone who's deep in the trenches of school, going through all that stuff, they would never go into an exam blind. They would do their reps. They would start preparing weeks in advance. And I feel like that's the approach that you have to take to a client meeting as well if you do want to get something out of it.
I agree. I agree. Like anywhere you can find ways to practice, right? Like that's for like everything in life. Something that I remember from a message that you sent last night. It was a quote. You sent me a quote or something. Do you remember it?
Um, to differentiate yourself, you have to speak about the alternatives, something along those lines. And
Yeah. Yeah,
that
yeah.
was from a book called the Sales Script.
Yeah.
And she's speaking about it from a marketing manager's perspective and talking
Yeah.
about positioning, product marketing, things like that. And I feel like that's the type of approach that we as salespeople need to take rather than taking the
Mm.
approach of the car salesman type of
Yeah.
marketing. Like
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. Like taking the approach of like someone in marketing or like a therapist or something like that and not necessarily prescribing someone with something. And I feel like you touch on this a lot as well, not prescribing someone with something, but going like through each and every single layer like a burger and getting like to the initial bun that was made. Like
Mm.
what
Top
questions do
down.
I need to
Yeah.
ask?
Yeah.
Yeah, what questions do I need to ask to get there?
Yeah. It's like someone's like, "Hey, I need a car." That's it. End of
Yeah,
story. What you can't do anything with
exactly.
that information,
Exactly.
right? Usually, like most folks jump into it, like, you need a car? Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. Let me show you this one, and then they start talking about all the specs of the car, right? Like,
And that's exactly what that book touched on as well. That like I could easily talk about a car. Okay, cool, and talk about all the technical features about my car. It's got this type of engine. It's got this type of door handle. But the way I feel like we need to position our product or service that we're selling is focus on the differentiators. Because
right?
why would you start a company if you don't
Yeah,
have a differentiator? Focus on that. Typically, what folks see is this, right? So like for example, if our product or service it's focusing on solving this one challenge, typically we've spoken to folks, they're seeing XYZ, our product does XYZ, rather than just saying our product has XYZ.
yeah, yeah. That's like when you're talking, it made me think of like something that I learned. My one of my good friends, he's a photographer. He does headshots, right? So
Yep,
like, see those like nice realtor shots, or he does corporate headshots as well. He goes into a building, he's like, I'm gonna take photos of everyone. You can't get someone's best self without getting to know them. Like taking a picture of
exactly.
somebody is pretty personal, right? Like I'm like, hey, Gurminder, like take a photo of you, right? You'd be like, okay, cool, that's not my authentic self. So what photographers are taught to do is actually have a conversation with the person, make them feel comfortable, and then they start the photo shoot. And
Exactly.
that's what differentiates really good photographers from just regular photographers. And it's the same thing with sales. I think we don't emphasize this enough. When people talk about build rapport, we're really talking to the person so that they feel comfortable sharing information with us. If we don't
Exactly.
do that, what ends up happening is we follow the agenda and structure, and it feels tiring. We get meeting fatigue because it's not engaging and it's not fun.
It's
Whereas,
just awkward. It's just
yeah,
awkward going into a call and like, you're like, hey, how was your weekend? Good. And then like you just start. selling them whatever you need to sell them. That just
Right.
doesn't make sense to me. Like,
Doesn't.
if you go to a doctor, you speak to a therapist, you like to your point about a photographer, they all like speak to you on like a human level, and
Hmm.
then that's how they get like the internal
Totally.
information out of you.
Yeah. And then you just get into weird parts of people's lives and conversations that you did not know that it was going to get there. And I think it's the same for customers too. There's a time and place. Don't get me wrong. Like I think when we go into commercial and enterprise, there's a time and place where there's executives on the call and minutes are worth hundreds.
Yeah,
And so you'll have typically you'll head into a very structured sales presentation where there's both sides of the party and there's millions of dollars worth of salary sitting in that meeting. There's a time and place for that, right? There's like the
yeah,
5 minute, like, hey, how's everyone going? Heard you folks in Toronto had a snowstorm. Are you guys doing all right? Not snowstorm, thunderstorm last night in the middle of
yep,
June, right? Once that's over in 5 minutes, we move on. But then for the most case, when you after that call, when you're talking to your direct contact, when you're talking to influencers or the end users, that's where, we have conversations like this, like you and I have these conversations, like, hey, how's it going? Like how are things doing? I don't go right into our conversations like, hey, Gurminder, like what's up? Like what's tell me about this, tell me about this,
ex
right? It makes it
exactly.
so tiring for other people.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I'll add to that real quick. Uh the goal of the conversation is so that both parties walk away feeling like that was light, easy, fun, and I'd do it again. As
yeah,
soon as we walk away from it feeling like it's homework, we avoid that feeling unconsciously, right? I
exactly.
truly believe that's a human thing. Like we always avoid friction. If we feel like I'm gonna walk out of this conversation with you, Gurminder, like I'm just exhausted and tired, and like I gotta do things and I gotta provide information, I'm not gonna want to do it again over time. Like I don't know
Yeah,
why, I just will associate your name to that. Same with prospecting
exactly,
too, right? Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Something that
To
happens with
that point,
friends. Yeah, go for it.
to that point though, I feel like there's certain things in life that people are okay with doing even when they're tired. For example, like the gym. I'll be
Fair.
completely honest. I dislike going to the gym.
Yeah.
But when I have to speak to a person that I dislike speaking to or I get tired speaking to them, I don't want to do it. Like there's other
Mm,
things in life that you're okay doing when you're tired or you just hate doing. But the only thing I feel like you're never going to do when you're tired or hate doing is speaking to another person that you don't want to be speaking to willingly.
that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Exactly.
It's
And
jarring. Yeah.
yeah. And what I like to do is I like to set like a monthly or like a bi-weekly quarterly sync with folks that I'm speaking to. And if they disagree to a monthly sync, I would assume that I went wrong somewhere in the discovery, that
Mm,
I went wrong on a human level somewhere in the discovery, that like I might just be boring, maybe I didn't connect with them. So to the initial point, rapport at the beginning, it is very important for me.
yeah. And you couldn't be more right about that. That's a very strong statement. If they don't agree to meet with me again on a cadence level, we've done something wrong in that relationship
Yeah,
because they should feel
exactly.
like they can give us that time. I always treat it as a coffee chat, right? Like
Yeah,
they're, I guarantee you, those same people, let's say that have shut folks down on cadences, they have syncs with other people, coffee chats with other people that
exactly.
they don't know anything about. Like they'll give
Yep.
that time. It's a matter of like who am I giving that time to? Um, and so we've both learned in our careers and our lives that people, yeah, people will shut you down. Like you've reached out
Yeah.
to a bunch of people on LinkedIn, and I bet you anything, not every one of them responded.
Yep.
And the ones that responded probably didn't meet with you either.
Yeah. Exactly. Or
It's the
they're
same
like
thing.
they're just going doing their diligence of being a kind person, right?
Right.
Like they didn't genuinely want to help, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think of that like pretty similar to like a like social setting, right? There's going to
Yeah.
be so many times where like just going back to the point where you talked about like if I'm tired and I don't want to talk to someone, like I don't want to talk to them. It's the same as, getting invited to events and like I genuinely don't want to go to that event. Like
Like it
it's
literally
draining.
just happens. Yeah, like
Yeah,
you're like, fuck, this person's here again. Shit.
right.
Like I feel like that sometimes happens with customers and clients as well. That like
Yeah.
sometimes they're like, shit, do I really need to meet with this person today? And I feel like that's why they might not be showing up,
Yeah.
right? Like I feel like it's a level of respect at one and level of do I like vibe and would I hang out with this person outside of work, right?
Mm, yeah.
That's kind of what I get from it. That if as a person
Fair.
outside of sales as well, like I see people and I'm like, I really don't want to talk to this person right now. Like, is this person
Don't.
really here? Like, yo, he's walking towards me. Like, we just locked eyes. Like, I gotta dap him up now, but
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I
no,
didn't
no,
mean to come
no, no,
out
no,
that
no, no,
way.
no,
I'm just kidding.
no, 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 no. But to that point, I think that's what customers think too. Like
Yeah,
before
it's
showing, like I'm sure customers have had just everyone has had customers. I'm sure you've had a ton of customers that like
yeah.
they just don't show up to the initial meeting, but after they
No.
have the initial meeting with you, they start showing up more
Yeah.
regularly.
Yeah.
And that's why I think
It's
the
easy.
first meeting you have with them is the most important meeting that you could possibly have.
Yeah, first impressions. And you brought something up that I just, if I don't talk about it, I'm going to forget about. We're all labeled the same as salespeople.
Yep.
Like Joe Schmo over there, um, that just is a old school salesperson, maybe more on the aggressive side, with the same title as us, we get labeled the same way. And so
Yep.
folks don't give people a chance because it's almost like stereotyped, right?
Yep.
We have a bad rap for a lot of these people, like you're a salesperson. Hmm. Whereas I guarantee you, if we weren't salespeople and we were at a social setting and someone came up to us and we're just meeting this cool guy and then he tells us, guy or gal, I just say
Yep.
guy automatically because I'm married. And
Yep.
I just don't want to put myself in that position in any in any shape or form. Let's say guy or gal comes up, talks to this cool person, and then they tell us, hey, oh, by the way, I do sales. We're gonna be like, oh yeah, you're dope. You're awesome. We can keep talking. It
Exactly.
doesn't matter,
Exactly.
right? Like if we weren't in sales, whereas like let's say we get approached by sales people all the time, and someone approaches us and like, hey, by the way, I'm in sales. I want to talk to you guys. We will have a guard up right away. So we actually have to fight over that hurdle to really sell ourselves before anything else.
I'm that just kind of lit a bulb in my head. I'm curious to know
You
your
go for
thoughts
it.
on this.
Yeah,
Like, ever since you've been in sales,
yeah,
and I'm sure you do get cold calls and you deal with, for example, if you want to go get a credit card, you're looking at a car.
yeah.
Are you more lenient? Are you like, okay, like I can kind of see through this guy? Or I'm curious to know, like, because I feel like that
Fair.
happens to
Yeah,
me. Like, if I were to go buy a car now, or when I'm dealing with people who are trying to sell me something, I'm like, dude,
oh,
I've
dude.
done
Yeah,
this. Like I'm in the game, man. Like I get it. I
yeah,
know what you're doing. Like I know what you oh, I told like for example, whenever I give an objection, I totally get it. A ton of folks that I work with, all like they
yeah,
go through that whole spiel. They're like, hey, like I've done that as well, man. Like I
yeah,
get it. I
yeah.
know it. Like I'm curious to know your thoughts on that.
I love that question because I like that. I want to talk about that, right? I'll start off with like there's two sides of the coin. There's a bunch of people that are going to say we are the best customer as
Yep.
salespeople because we believe the imagination, we believe the rainbow land, we believe the end product, and we want to believe, and that's why we're the best customer. I don't think that's the case. For me, I feel like I have all my guards up when I talk to a salesperson.
Yep.
For me, they've really gotta to sell themselves. Like I've
Yep.
got to really click with that person, and I have to feel like they're genuine.
Yep.
And I refrain from providing too much information to them because I don't
Yep.
want them to use it against me.
Yep.
There are times where I felt like they've done a phenomenal job, and I'm like, I'm just going to open up, and I want to see where this takes me. So that's where I'm at. I'll give you a great example of that. My dietitian, great salesperson,
Yeah.
because I feel like she's not a salesperson, but she's trying to learn sales, and so she'll ask all the questions like, hey, like what would it mean to you if you didn't follow through with your diet and exercise plan to get you to where
Yeah.
you are? What would that mean for you personally and professionally? She'll ask
Yeah.
questions that are textbook, and like anybody else, I would have been like, dude, that's come on, can you spin it in a more human way? But because I knew that she wasn't a salesperson, and she went with that, and then when she summarized it, it sounds to me like summarize it out for me, took all the notes. I was like, I want to work with this person because she puts
I
in the
feel like
effort.
you're comfortable answering those questions from her though. It's because on like a surface level, if you look back to the initial call you had with her, probably like that discovery call, it was like very genuine, I would
Yeah,
assume. And you were like, this is a really kind person who's like genuinely looking out for me, like who
right.
genuinely cares for my health,
Cares about
type of
her
thing.
craft as well. Yeah, yeah.
That's why I always think that first call,
So
to
it
my
really
point, and I've been
depends.
preaching it
Yeah,
this whole time, like
yeah,
it's the most important thing ever. Like you seriously have to be genuine, or else next time you ask, like, what are the top three challenges you're facing
yeah,
with this system that you're implementing right now? They're gonna see right through it.
yeah.
they're gonna see it coming from a mile away. Th-
You can't really teach genuinity. Is that even a word?
Yeah,
I don't even know if that's a word, but I
I
don't
don't
think you
know.
can
It makes
teach that.
sense.
Like when we talk about it, we're just like, okay, in order to become genuine, it really is you have that conversation at the end goal of that conversation the entire time is who is the person I'm talking to? Like
Yep,
how do I make them feel like it's a space to chat? And the
yep,
goal for that conversation is so that I can call again. Usually if you go with that approach, you will end up with another meeting. Like
yep.
that's let it naturally take you there. But when you force yourself to be genuine with an agenda, like most people can smell through it, I'd say. And like let's
Yeah,
be real, like the people that get sold to, they've done the sales dance so many times. Like they've seen it
exactly.
all. Right.
They know what's coming. They
Yeah.
1000% know what's coming. Another point then, another thing that you pointed out there was your dietitian. She is trying to learn sales, like
Well,
go
I
through
would
that
assume so.
dance
If
as
she
well.
looks at this, hey,
Yeah,
Helen, like I apologize. I didn't know if you weren't learning sales, but it seemed like you were, and you did a
yeah.
fantastic job.
To that point though, I think every profession, like you have to learn. I wouldn't necessarily say learn sales, but you got to learn people and human skills.
Yeah, just
You just have
communication.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's a staple. If you want to communicate with someone, no matter in what field, if you're a cashier at I don't know where, you got to know how to talk to someone. You got to know how
yeah,
to make someone's day. You're dealing with these people every day. No one wants to like, and then when they flip it around saying like tip tip, like I'm like,
yeah.
okay, cool, you were nice to me. I might give you like a $5 tip. Cool, why not?
Totally,
But
totally.
like I
But if you
feel
go
like
into it like expecting a tip, like the whole goal of it was like to make sure you got a tip. Like people can feel that too, right? It doesn't
that's
come
where you
off
need to be
genuine.
genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I was while you're talking like, it's about communication, right? Communication and just overall, that is the foundation, right? We've established that. That is the foundation of sales. Like there's so many different videos and things out there to teach people how to sell better, etc. Those are pieces that you add to your foundation, I would say.
Yep.
And there are so many opposing thoughts on how to sell, how to do all these things that I think that it wouldn't make sense until someone can actually organize it. I find that a lot of new salespeople, they get lost in the sauce. Like they use
Yep.
enterprise selling for small medium business. They use small medium business type of sales for enterprise. They use like car sales for like tech sales. Like they need to differentiate. And I also think that there's got to be a better way for coaches out there or sales trainers out there to say like, hey, this works best with X because it is actually doing a disservice to everyone that is just young and hungry, which is
Exactly.
horrible. Yeah.
To that point, I think rather than diving so deep into, YouTube seminars, books, stuff like that, you have to go into the trenches yourself and just figure out what works for you.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
I'm a big preacher that getting hung up on 50 times by a customer is going to teach you way more than what a book is going to teach you, like a
Oh yeah.
thousand times more than what a book is going to teach you. And you have to go figure that out. Like a book is never going to teach you what it feels like to get hung up on someone.
Yeah.
If I just spoke to someone randomly right now, oh yeah, a guy hung up on me. Oh, like who cares? He doesn't even know you exist. You don't know you exist. Like,
Yeah.
but man, the way it makes you feel like when you're going through like your whole spiel of like, oh yeah, this is how we're working with customers, how we're providing value, and it's just like click, and you realize you look
Ooh.
up, looking at Ring Central, and it's like, oh, the timer's paused. Shit, like I gotta get the
Yeah.
hell out of here. But I just went on a rant there, that a little
Well,
bit
you
off track.
like
But
that's a great point. Like you mentioned 50 times, right? Let's say 50 times. Every time you call now is how do I avoid the 51st, the 52nd, 53rd? It
exactly,
forces you to iterate, right? Like I talked about this. Like my whole philosophy is recognize, do it, and then iteration.
yeah,
That's how you
exactly.
progress, right? And
And
yeah,
that's with everything, I think. Like your first initial meeting, it's going to be like, okay, I just need to book a meeting. I'm cool with it. But then
yeah,
your second meeting that you're going to be booking, you're gonna be like, okay, cool. How do I book a follow-up call with this
yeah,
person? And
right.
then the first couple times you're going to dial, you're going to be, okay, I just need to get my activity up.
Mm,
I got to get 15, $20 today. But then the next time, or like you progressively keep going 6, 7 months down the line, you're going to be like, how do I book 16 to 20 meetings? Right? Like, and
yeah,
I feel like everything just goes back to starting.
yeah. You brought something up. Presentations.
Yeah.
That is probably a separate topic in itself. But as you were
Yeah.
talking about speaking to people, like one person that I really look up to that I think is just has a fantastic charisma, great at presentation is Steve Jobs. Like I still
Yeah.
watch some of his old videos. Like how does a man stand on stage? and talk for an hour and a half and keep the entire audience engaged. If you've noticed, like the Apple sessions now, there's like 10 different people that switch through
Yeah.
different portions, and there's a lot of animation. It's not as engaging as just
Yep.
one dude with a turtleneck on screen holding one device talking about it and trying to figure it out as he moves his glasses up. It's incredible.
Because that's where the genuineness comes from.
Yeah,
Like he actually cares
it's not
about his
scripted.
product. He
Yeah,
truly believes in it. He knows it better than anybody else, and he
right.
literally wants all these people in the world watching it to be using his product or service. And I feel like that's the type of love and passion you need to have for your product or service, and you actually need to believe in it more than anybody else.
I agree, man. I think that's what it is. And like it comes from a place of number one, you got to have passion, and you got to believe it more than anybody else. You got to be genuine and then simplify it. You and I talk
Exactly.
just like how we talk. We talk to our customers the same way that we talk to each other. It's the same thing, same
Yep.
language, maybe some industry jargon because there's other things that we can't use simplified English for, let's say, serve sows or or anything like
Yeah.
that, statement of
Yeah.
words. But that is how we talk to each other, like just talking
Exactly.
grade five English. And
Exactly.
most people want to talk that way, actually, I find. So
Yeah.
probably a separate topic, presentation. But I think that's where
Other
we should
topics come
probably
out of
cap it
this.
up, eh? Should probably
Yep.
cap it off. Like, we'll think about what to talk about next time. But really got into flow with this. I could probably talk to you forever right now, but one topic at a time.
Once you once you start, you can't stop. It's
Just get
very
going.
difficult.
Can't
Very
stop.
difficult.
We'll probably
Very
have to set some
difficult.
other time and get this done.
Yeah.
No? Yeah, 5:30. Appreciate you. Appreciate anyone that listens to this, maybe like the four people that listen to this. But I truly believe that this is a conversation that every new or recent sales rep or someone getting back into sales or have been in sales for too long now just needs to refocus on because they
Applicable.
get pulled into too many things.
It's
Yeah,
always applicable. You always got to go back to the basics and get your reps in. At the end of the day,
yeah. Get your reps
we
in.
are athletes.
Yeah,
Like you can't just do something nice for one day and stop. You gotta
totally. Yeah.
keep sharpening the iron.
All right. That being said, that's it. Catch you
Catch
later.
you later, sir.
Okay, you
See
as
ya.
well. Take care. Have a
Yep.
good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.